DeFi versus CeDeFi. Welcome to another video. My name is Kügi, and as always, I try to provide you with data and insights so that you can make smart decisions for yourself. Today, let's talk about the beautiful topic of real-world assets. And today I want to give you a bit of an overview what I think is the current state or general conceptual difference between real DeFi approach regarding real-world assets and the currently most seen or most active part of real-world assets, which is a CeDeFi approach. Because I did a video about building a decentralized real-world asset portfolio, and there I use CeDeFi protocols because I don't know any real DeFi real-world asset protocol yet that's actually working right now. So that's the topic, but there were some questions about that in after the last video. So I thought let's do another video where we go into the differences and what I see as the approaches there, the differences there. So let's dive in. First, I will do this whole thing a bit split up into the areas. We have on the right side the traditional finance asset, because when I talk about real-world asset, I usually mean assets from traditional finance. So in the traditional finance, some ETF, some stock, some commodities or anything. And then we have the middle ground kind of where there's centralized, decentralized finance, so the CeDeFi real-world asset. And on the left, we have the pure 100% DeFi. And yes, as always, that's concepts I'm talking about, no actual protocol. Real protocols will always be somewhere in the range, right? So for me, this is what I will describe as the pure DeFi real-world asset. Is for me the end of the spectrum on the DeFi side, where everything is as I would want it to be fully decentralized. And the spectrum, yeah, that's the spectrum kind of. So let's start on the, okay, let's move that up. Start on the traditional finance. If me as a user wants to buy an asset in the traditional finance, I need a broker, I need an account at the broker, which has access to the exchange. And then I send the order to the broker and tell them, please buy 1 SPY for me. And they buy that and keep it in an account for me. I need full KYC, that's why the arrow is orange. I need full KYC, broker knows everything about me, and they can freeze the assets if the government tells them to or whatever. But that's how you access a real asset in the real world, right? So how to get that via a broker and an exchange. So far so good. Now let's see if we move over from the off-chain world, so to speak, to the on-chain world. And there we have a DEX. So for me, I don't even think or consider a real-world asset protocol as interesting if it's not tradable on a DEX. So there should be, whatever protocol there is, there should be a real-world asset token that can be traded by anyone on the DEX. So me as a user, I can go to the DEX, I swap whatever other token I have in this real-world asset token and keep it in my wallet. So at least this self-custody must be there. And as soon as something is on the DEX, there are two things that are important and that any protocol on the chain needs to provide. And that's on the one hand liquidity and on the other hand price stability. For any token beside a pure on-chain token, so any crypto token, crypto project token, price stability is like whatever the price the token has on the DEX is the real price. But for real-world asset, we have the real price from the real world, and this price needs to reflect that price. I'm not saying it must be 100% at the Oracle price all the time, because that's not possible, since those exchanges are usually not 24/7. So there are times when the exchange is closed, and then there is actually no current price. So this 100% back is not always possible, but at least within a range, or within a range over a certain time, or whatever. So there is some topic about price stability, whatever that means for each protocol, different topic, but that's for me the two big topics for real-world assets on a DEX: how to provide liquidity, how to keep the price close to the oracle or close to the real price. Now, how does CeDeFi solve that? In CeDeFi, you have a protocol which is owned by a centralized entity, a centralized wrapper. And this central entity, this protocol, has some verified protocol users. They need to do KYC with the protocol or with the company who is behind the protocol, verify with them, and then they are whitelisted and can mint and redeem real-world asset token. The protocol itself, behind the scenes, has an account at a broker or direct contact to the, access to the exchange, doesn't matter, and they are able to buy that. So here we have again a KYC part, and how this thing usually or should be working is that if any verified protocol user mints, so creates a new real-world asset token from the protocol behind the scenes buys the real asset, and therefore they have that token here 100% backed. So if a verified user mints one SPY, so one decentralized SPY or one SPY token, the protocol behind the scenes buys one real SPY and keeps it in the collateral. So every token that is created, every SPY token that is in the fluctuation, so in the total supply, so whatever is around here, needs to be 100% backed by the protocol, because if that's the case, then whenever a verified protocol user comes in and says, I take a SPY token and want to redeem it, they can redeem it for the full price, because then the protocol itself sells it, gets the full price, and you have redeemed the token. So how is this solving those two topics? Liquidity, they can mint. Sometimes they can have direct access to the protocol or to the owners, and they directly provide their real assets to their collateral and get the minted token, or they just mint it and provide it as liquidity. And price stability wise, if the price on the DEX is in a discount, protocol users can buy the price cheap on the DEX, redeem it for the full price of the asset here. So they have direct arbitrage, buy it cheap, redeem it for the full price, get the profit, and if it's still in a discount, do that as long as there's a discount. Since all tokens are backed, they can, worst case, they buy up all the supply and redeem it, and all good. So the discount can always be bought up because it's 100% backed. And if there is a premium, they mint new tokens, sell it at a premium, and have the result from the funds to mint new tokens. So they have, again, direct arbitrage and can do that. This direct arbitrage, of course, only works for the verified protocol users, because they're the only ones who can mint here. So centralized protocol, centralized owner, usually this protocol is upgradable. Also, usually those tokens, the real-world asset token that they create, are upgradable and can be censored. So the owner can freeze funds, can blacklist addresses, and so on. They have to do that because there is a central entity behind that. And if the government comes in and says you have to freeze those funds or have to do something there, they need to be able to do that. Otherwise, the government says you can't. If you can't do that, you are not allowed to do the whole thing, and your whole operation is shut down. That's also one of the reasons why we didn't have such CeDeFi real-world assets in the past, because the US government wasn't that crypto friendly, and therefore didn't allow any of that. So big companies, no companies, even went into the trouble to do that because it was regulatory nightmare or even impossible. So no one did it, and we didn't have real protocols there. Now it's more open, more allowed, more is possible. So we see more and more of those types of companies coming in and doing the backing and providing the tokens. But that's CeDeFi. You are censorable and everything. So now what would be the pure DeFi approach? Pure DeFi means you have one decentralized asset protocol again. Of course, it's a protocol should be now not upgradable, because otherwise as soon as it's upgradable, you have to trust the owner. Tokens without any censor ability, no freezing, no blacklisting, whatever. Also means no one is saving you. Here, you might have if funds get stolen from you, they might be willing to freeze the funds from the decker or anything. So they can protect the user, so to speak. Here, full DeFi, you are on your own. No one can stop you from doing it, but also no one is stopping bad guys. Plus and minus of full decentralization. This protocol needs a way to create tokens. Same as they create tokens, but here the protocol itself can't back the assets directly because the protocol, there is no central entity behind it who does that. So the protocol needs some tokenomics, some logic, how to create the tokens, how to allow creating the tokens. How the protocol does that, different question. Today is just about the concept, but this protocol needs a way to do that. And now how is this solving the liquidity and price stability topics? Liquidity, the protocol allows anyone to create tokens, to mint tokens. So anyone can just mint the tokens, so create the tokens and provide them as liquidity. Usually such a protocol will likely, if you create a token, you have like an open position at the protocol, a loan or something like that, that you owe the protocol to give the token back. Because if you don't have that, the whole supply is hard to regulate. So I assume to have something like that. And then those decentralized liquidity providers have kind of a short position via the minting. But if they provide the liquidity, they still have the token here. So they have still the long position on the liquidity. They might get some impermanent loss from the liquidity providing, but they assume, otherwise they wouldn't do it, they assume that the profit from commission is bigger than the impermanent loss that they will get from that. And impermanent loss on delta neutral liquidity providing is less than what you usually consider impermanent loss because you have the short position on the other side. So whatever happens, usually with, except for the impermanent loss, they have the position here, and if they want to close it, they just take the liquidity out, give the token back, and that's it, and they just keep the yield. Maybe the protocol incentivizes liquidity, gives them some rewards for providing liquidity, whatever, but that's the detailed decision for the protocol, how to incentivize that, but they have decentralized liquidity providers. Can be a big group, anyone can do that. On the other side, you have the question about price stability. And for the price stability, you now need someone with access to an exchange, to a broker. Because they, and there is again, from the protocol side, anyone can do that. From the brokers, from this side, broker side, you need the KYC, so only users who have access to the real asset, to the corresponding asset for whatever token you have there. You need users who have access to that, but worldwide you will have users there. But that's a bit of always the downside. But you have that, so anyone can do that. So anyone who has the access here can decide for themselves to just say, okay, I want to do that. And what do they do and why do they do it? They provide price stability. So whenever a real world asset token here is in premium, it means that they could mint a token from the protocol, sell it at the premium on the DEX, and at the same time buy it here. Same thing that this protocol basically did, but now it's anyone can do it. And they buy the SPY here, have a long position at broker, since they sold it at a premium here, they have a short position in the system and are delta neutral again, because whatever happens to SPY, they're short and long are the same size in terms of token value, token amount. So they don't care what the token price does. They just care that the premium here regarding the real world asset price goes down again. So if they sell it at a 5% premium and after a few days, after a week, whatever, the price is back to the peg or down to 2% premium, they can close the position, and the difference between the premiums, or the difference between the price difference, is their profit. And that's why they do it, because they can get a profit here. So they have the incentive from the profit. Now, the big topic that this protocol always has to solve is to attract the decentralized minters, because decentralized liquidity providers usually get the rewards from commission, so that's kind of easy to solve. This side is harder to solve, because how to make sure that the price doesn't stay in premium. Because if the minters sell at a 5% premium and then the price of the token goes to 10% premium and never goes down again, they sit on a loss. So they need some way to know and be really confident that if they sell it at a 5% premium, it will go down over time. It doesn't have to be instantly, but they need to be sure that the premium will go back below the entry price so that they make a profit from it. Otherwise, they won't do it, and then there's no one who is keeping the price in check. So the protocol needs some way of assuring the decentralized minters to do that, or incentivizing them in some other way, that they say, yeah, we take the risk of having an uncapped premium, or have the, okay, we know we will make some profit, because they want to make profit, they want to make profit. And the profit that those two groups get is this price for the service that they provide for the DEX user, and that's that the DEX user is able to use those tokens on the DEX. So if there's a premium, it means some user bought it into a premium here, and therefore they paid a bit more, and then they took the premium down. So that's what the service fee kind of that the decentralized minters get for providing extra liquidity if there's extra demand. And the DEX, the swap commission that they pay, is a service fee for them to provide the liquidity. And that solves kind of both questions, liquidity, price stability, in a decentralized way. Now, to sum it up, I have a bit of the pros and cons of all sides, because if you look at the system and think about it, you have to consider all parts of it. In the traditional finance, if you buy an asset here, you have the full regulatory clarity, full regulations, you have established brokers, you have regulated businesses, so you are protected a lot as a user, because old finance, whatever you call protected there, but you know what I mean. And you have the voting rights. If you own shares of a company, you have voting rights in the company. If you have not a lot shares, not a lot of voting rights, but this thing is there. Cons on the other side, you have all the downsides that we in a decentralized world don't like on the traditional finance. You have KYC, you are fully censorable. So whenever someone doesn't like that you have an account there, they can close the account, they can freeze your funds, or whatever. You have your market times, market opening or closing times. Many exchanges are just open during working hours. You have the time zone topic. You have on the weekends, basically all exchanges are closed. And usually you have long transaction times compared to decentralized topics, compared to on-chain transactions. Because here it takes time. You send the broker the order needs to send the broker to the exchange. There it needs to be confirmed, coming back and everything. And sometimes it takes a day or more to settle an order. But you have the pros. CeDeFi, you usually, if the protocol is legit and does this 100% backing, you have a fixed back, the price doesn't move, away from the asset price, because you have the fixed back and direct arbitrage for the verified protocol users as long as minting is open, so in the market hours usually, but there you have the fixed back. It's already on chain. You have the low fees, you have the fast transaction, what we love in the decentralized world. And sometimes, often, it's even with dividends or yields from the underlying asset, because since the centralized entity here owns all the backing assets, they receive all the yield, and they can, as a service for their protocol, reinvest those yields directly into the protocol or into the token, and therefore the real world token, the real world asset token, gains in value compared to the real asset token, because you have like liquid staking approach to get the value up. So this is possible on the CeDeFi approach. Cons, you need to trust the centralized issuer. You need to trust them to not do a faulty update, to have the full backing. You need to trust them to not freeze your funds, to not run away, to not do a rug pull, whatever. Censor the stuff, so it's fully censorable usually, and you usually don't have voting rights in the asset. Most of users don't care for voting rights because they anyway are in the lower areas of the ownership, so their voting doesn't count anyway. And if you want to count for the voting, you buy traditional finance directly. And then we have the pure DeFi, and yeah, nothing is only pros, so we have also pros and cons here. And here we have, on the one hand, the decentralized minters, so no attack vector for regulators. Here in the CeDeFi, if the regulator says we don't want you to do that, they just shut down the company, give them some trouble, and yeah, that's it. Here there is no one to attack, because those decentralized minters, anyone with an access to a broker with that asset anywhere in the world can do that. So as long as there is an incentive, a financial incentive to do it, anyone can do it, and anyone will do it, likely. So regulators have a hard time attacking that. Code is law, no upgrades, no reason to trust anyone. You just need to review the code, or trust someone, or have someone you trust review the code and verify that this is legit and this does what it says it does. But then code is law. Once you trust the code, there is no need to trust anything else. It's uncensorable, or in the end of the spectrum where this protocol and tokens have no way to censor or do anything, then it's uncensorable, full DeFi as it should be. Cons, possible bugs in the code if there are no upgrades. So that's a pro and a con, because if there are bugs in the code, you can't upgrade the code, and therefore, yeah, that's an issue. Tokenomic issues or protocol risk. Yeah, I think there's a reason why no token or no protocol like that survived so far, because it's not that easy to do. So there is the risk that the tokenomics doesn't work out and the price stability fails. So that's something that anyone who uses any protocol like that needs to decide for themselves if this is a reasonable approach from the protocol owners or protocol builders. So that's a risk. Usually you have no dividends or yields from underlying asset because you have the decentralized minters, and the protocol would need some way to get it from them. But not only the decentralized minters can mint the token, also the liquidity providers can mint the token. And while they have the real asset behind and could be forced to get the token and the value in, they can't. So as a protocol, I think it's not really possible here to have dividends or yields from the underlying asset. That's what I would often know, because I guess there's none, but maybe some protocol will figure it out. And of course, again, you have no voting rights in the asset. Exactly. So that's, in my opinion, a bit the spectrum. For me, this is the goal that we should have something like that in the future. Would be great if DeFi can provide something like that, because that would be the thing that DeFi is about. Decentralized finance should have real DeFi, real world asset protocols, not just lending or staking yield generation. For me, that's not DeFi, that's casino gambling. But yeah, I would love to see something like that. It's already, I don't say that there is no good reason to have that, to have something like that. CeDeFi is also valid because it's easier for users, it's easier regulatory-wise to have it, and it's working, and it's a good step. Just to be clear, for example, Tether, any US stablecoin, or any centralized US stablecoin is a CeDeFi, a real-world asset, because a stablecoin, dollar is a real-world asset, not via broker, but it's a real-world asset. And Tether is minting and redeeming for verified protocol users, and they can now then put it on the chain. So this is already a real-world asset protocol that's using, and there's a big use case for that. So I'm not saying that CeDeFi is bad. I just think that it would be great that we also have pure DeFi real-world asset protocols, so that we can benefit from all sides. And some users are better here, some users are better to use that. More use cases, more protocols, more possibilities for anyone. So with that, I hope that cleared up a bit my understanding regarding different areas. If there are any questions, leave a comment. If you think what I said is complete bullshit, tell me in the comments. I'm always open to learn. If you know any protocol from that area especially, please let me know. As you see in the other video, I already trying 2 of this area protocols, but if you know any other, also let me know, because I would love to check them out. And with that, see you in the next video.